Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Another week, another episode. This is Stats Over Politics. As always, I'm your host, Shaun alongside my guys, Mr. Kevin Dent and Mr. Kaz Johnson. Jaevon Toddy, a.k.a. the Podfather, should be joining us sooner rather than later. We're back for another episode, number 158. Kevin, I know that you are well hydrated with that Gatorade, but how are you feeling this week?
Feeling good, man. It was an ugly W, but we got the W. That's all that matters. As long as the end of my phrase says W, I don't care. A lot of people have been saying a lot of things to me in my DMs, so I'm ready to address a lot of those things. But your favorite quarterback is 2-0, leading the Eagles to another 2-0 start under Nick Sirianni. So full steam ahead. Defense is playing great. We'll figure out the offense. We've been here before. So we started not pretty last year. Look how it ended. As you can see with the jersey on my left. So feeling good, feeling great. No complaints. Ready to talk some ball.
Really looking forward to hearing those responses coming up in our first segment here on episode 158. Kaz, just casually, obviously you are obviously for the listeners of this podcast and those who may be viewing on YouTube, Twitch, or Instagram right now and see your hat. How are you feeling about the Birds' 20-17 win against the Chiefs in Kansas City for the Super Bowl rematch?
Fine. Chiefs didn't look good at all. And, as I think Kevin just said it, it's like, I'm not sweating, man. We're 2-0, and I think that our identity is just winning, and we don't really care about how it looks as long as the end result is a dub. And even though people are going to be very nitpicky about, let's just talk about the elephant in the room, Jalen Hurts' performance. He didn't play bad just as much as he didn't play good. There was just nothing that needed to be done to win that game. We didn't have to put up 40. We didn't have to, have some sort of insane amount of turnovers on the Chiefs and nothing like that. We just controlled the game all the way through and it secured the dub. And I think a game like that where you're on the road, it's just very important to get in there and get the dub and get out. The way I look at road games, I'm more so like, who is the opponent? Okay, what is opponents, history, things like that. The Chiefs are a team that I feel like you just, no matter who your team is, you don't want to play it. You don't want to play an Arrowhead. And although there's, some injuries and some questionable things going on in KC right now, this is the first time they start off 0-2 and since 2000 and not 11, 13. Yeah, it was somewhere around there. So it's been a while. Mahomes has never start off 0-2, obviously, and that's a big one. And I'm not sure
he was a sophomore in high school.
Yeah, so I didn't even know that. So I mean, just to go in there, Super Bowl rematch again. We all know about the Super Bowl hangovers. That's supposedly a real thing. So this would have been the perfect game for us to go in there and lay an egg and shit the bed, and we still got the job done. So I'm completely fine. This is kind of cool when you're part of a team now that has a true winning culture. We had it back when we were younger. You got, Kevin was real little, but I was in junior high and whatnot. And, seeing the Eagles have that, get into back-to-back NFC championship games, get into a Super Bowl, losing to Tom Brady, whatever. It's like, that was a good ass team. But then there was a long stint where it's like, okay, we see kind of flashes of it, but nothing too crazy, nothing too promising, right? Tom Brady and Big Ben and, Sprinkling Peyton Manning, they won a plethora of rings from the mid 2000s all the way up to, the 2020. So, it's like to see what we're doing now. I get it now. This is what it's like to be part of a winning culture. We don't give a shit what y'all think, man. We don't care. We do not care. It's not like Jalen Hurts is going out here throwing 4 picks and rushing for 30 yards and throwing for 100 yards. He's throwing for a solid 100 yards, no turnovers. He didn't have a turnover. Yeah, he has no turnovers still, right? Exactly. So no turnovers. And then, we just control the game all the way through on the road against the defending, or not defending, but against a multi Super Bowl championship caliber team, which is the Chiefs. And they were just in the Super Bowl last year. So I'm completely fine with that. That game could have been 9-3 for all I give a fuck, honestly. So you got to win those big games. We're going to have some easy games coming up here, within the next 4 to 5 weeks. We got to see the Giants almost back to back for the most part. I think it's like the Giants and someone else and the Giants again. We get the Giants out real early. So not trying to look past that, but what I'm trying to say is just win the big games. Beat the opponents that 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 play really good playoff football. That says a lot about your team. So completely fine with that performance. I thought it was a solid game through and through. Defense showed some signs of greatness, and I'm loving that. So the young guys are running around. I thought it was a good game.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you feel like the Eagles laid a bit of an egg there, no pun intended on your part, but another reigning, defending, undisputed champion that recently laid an egg is my favorite WNBA team, the New York Liberty, who just, you see the 30 on my jersey? That represents Breanna Stewart's number, but they just lost basically by that number at home against the Phoenix Mercury with a chance to clinch and move on to the next round of the WNBA playoffs. And I just had to say that real quickly because they got game 3, winner take all on Friday night in Phoenix. I'll be covering high school football, so I won't get to watch it as closely as I'd like, but let's hope that the Liberty have a chance to go back-to-back as WNBA champions, and that quest doesn't come to an end on Friday night. Just had to give a quick shout out to them. We will recap the first round of the WNBA playoffs on episode 159 next week on Stats Over Politics, but I'm rooting for my New York Liberty until we get to that point. And before we move on, guys, and start getting into these games, I just wanted to highlight a couple of comments on YouTube and over text message, which I thought was quite kind. Starting out with Uncle Manny, who's always locked in. Uncle Manny says, a lot of QBs getting hurt early this year, which is a bummer. Have a great show. We appreciate you, Uncle Manny. And yeah, it's been rough for quarterbacks in the NFL thus far. And I also wanted to give a shout out to Mr. James, Cousin James, who's watching right now with his fellow cousins as they are enjoying some Little Caesars brought to you by the People's tight end, George Kittle. And so shout out to James and all the cousins for tuning in right now. After that, let's not waste any more time, guys. Let's get right into it here on episode 158. And let's get right to that Super Bowl matchup that we were just talking about briefly. Kevin, I'm going to start things off with you. The Eagles beat the Chiefs 20-17. A win is a win. We've already touched on it a little bit, but what were your thoughts when it comes to dissecting the game that was?
So my problem with this is there are people out here like Stevie Wonder who can't see, and all he can do is hear. So all he thinks we did was tush push every play. 98 yards. All we did was go up and down, tush push, tush push, tush push. And that's the farthest thing from the truth. So what I want to come on here and say is, yes, we ran the tush push 7 times. 7 times. Not 100, not 82. We ran it 7 times. So that's 11% of our plays. People want to say that we won the game because of the tush push. The tush push was not the reason Patrick Mahomes was overthrowing receivers. The tush push was not the reason Travis Kelce dropped the ball that ended up in an interception. The tush push was not the reason their kicker missed a kick. They went for it on 4th down, and then they missed it, a field goal. The tush push is not the reason those things happen. So for you guys to sit here and say we only won because the tush push, and, Chris Jones wants to say you didn't have 100 yards, which is also wrong. So I hope when he got to the locker room, he checked the box score. I mean, it's 101. It's not like he threw for 200. But for you to say that and be wrong, just really for the saltiness. Everyone's sending me the clips of them jumping off sides, but no one wants to move their eyes a centimeter to the left and see all the Chiefs defenders off sides. So it's like, if you want to say one thing, you have to call the other thing. Who cares what it looked like Kaz and I said in the pregame show, whether it's 9-3 or we get a safety and we win 2-0. A win is a win. We have a winning culture in Philadelphia. That's why me and Kaz have been able to see our team host the Lombardi twice. Jalen Hurts has gone up against Patrick Mahomes now 5 times. He and Joe Burrow are the only quarterbacks to beat him 3 times. So when you talk about the elite tier of quarterbacks, you always mention Joe Burrow. Jalen Hurts gets a lot of disrespect because he has this, he has that. He's getting the job done. He's winning the football games, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. Yes, it doesn't look like it did in the Super Bowl, but for us to get the W is the only thing that matters. Because when we look back, week 10, week 11, week 12, the only thing we're going to remember from week 2 is that we went into Kansas City and got the W. The Eagles are not playing our best brand of football. I understand that. Everyone wants to see the explosive plays. Everyone wants to see this. Everyone wants to see that. Watching the all-22 version, the very first play of the game, we were going to take a shot, but Jalen Hurts fumbled the football. So the plays are there. When you're playing against Spags, these two teams know each other very, very well. Like I said, we played 5 times over the last 4 years. So besides our divisional opponents, that's the team we've played the most. Then it's the Packers and teams like the Rams. But when you're playing a lot of the good teams over and over and over, yes, you're switching out coordinators. Yes, you're switching out player personnel, but the schemes are mostly the same. Yes, I can get it. The Eagles aren't doing the explosive plays like we did last year, but we saw Spags in the Super Bowl commit to making Jalen Hurts beat them. And making Jalen Hurts beat them lost in the game. Saquon Barkley ran for, I think, 63 yards, season low, and we were able to win that game because Jalen Hurts was able to destroy them with his legs and his arms. So now let's go to Sunday. Jalen Hurts threw for 101 yards. It wasn't the best of games, but like I said, when you're doing a zero blitz and you're getting blitzed over and over and over and over, it's not gonna be really pretty. And then the time when we weren't zero blitzed, nothing was open. Kevin Patullo came out today and said the big shots are coming. We're gonna keep trying, we're gonna keep going at it. And my biggest thing is when you see, like in 22 went to the Super Bowl, and then we had Brian Johnson come in. I get it. You're a young OC. This is your first time calling plays. You want to be the reason why we're successful. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We saw it work. We saw it work with Miles Sanders in 22, and then we came in with Swift, and we didn't do the same thing. We saw it work last year with Saquon, 2,000 yards, one of only 8 players to do that, and then we're coming in, and he's not even cracking 100 yards. So, yes, teams are now going to play us differently because we have Saquon Barkley, but what we're putting on film is a copycat league. So if people are seeing that we're not going to be able to get things off with a zero blitz, or if they just keep zoning us all day, they are going to do that because they think we can't score enough points to win. But on the other side of that coin, we have the best defense in football. Over 2 games, we've given up 7 points in the second half, and that was a blown coverage. So if it wasn't for that blown coverage, it would literally be 0 points in the second half. Like I said, we gave up 7 points in the second half. We have the second lowest passer rate in the NFL in the second half, 5th in opponents' yards per pass, and 6th in completions allowed. So, yes, you can sit here and say the offense is doing this, the offense is doing that, but like Micah Parsons said with the Packers, I mean, if the offense puts up 20 points, should be able to win a game because our defense is playing lights out. So that's what I had to say on here. So I know a lot of people want to sit here and say we only won because of the tush push, but like I said, we ran it 7 times, 11% of the play calls. They didn't make all those mistakes happen because of the tush push.
And Kaz, I know that you shared some of your thoughts in the intro of today's episode, but what would you like to add? And before we get your thoughts on it, I just wanted to say that as I was loading up StreamYard today and creating the broadcast for today's episode, they showed me a preview of some of the new features. And that is one of the new features, is that you can click on someone's tab and then throw them on the main stage. I'll have to talk with the guys to see if we like that, how it does with the clips, but that's a new feature that we're rocking. So Kaz, what would you like to add about the Super Bowl rematch?
Yeah, and I did cover most of it in the intro, but I mean, Kevin, he hit the nail on the head, and it's like, I don't know, man. It's hard to explain. If you have not been a fan of a team with a winning culture, you just would understand. I have notes right here next to me of I'm gonna probably do some sort of TikTok or something, in the next couple of days, give or take, about the harsh criticism of Jalen Hurts compared to some of the greatest of all time that ever played the game. And within these notes, I have just how well these elite level quarterbacks, these Hall of Famers, these, quote unquote GOATs have played and won games, the big games, and their stats actually don't show. And it actually happens more often than you guys think. Honestly, from my information that I found out, I noticed that when these, high level quarterbacks have these tremendous years where they have, Hall of Fame seasons where they go off and they do, all these yards, all these touchdowns, they never win. Like when it's all said and done, they do not win the big game. And I'm not saying that, well, they're still putting up, they're still putting up more yards, and they're not having 100-yard games and whatnot. No. And I understand that. And that's okay to criticize them on that. But what I will say is when they do win the big game, when they do win a lot, it is usually when they're not even performing to the best that they've ever performed before in their career. And that is that's a statistical fact. You can look it up. So like when I see this team win the way that we do, it's been a thing for the last 3 years since the first Super Bowl Jalen Hurts was in 2023. We had, AJ Brown had a career year that year. Hurts was throwing, but even then they were still complaining about the same shit, the tush push. They were still complaining about, well, he doesn't put up 300 yards. It's like the goalpost just keeps moving until he puts up he needs to have pretty much consistent games where it's like, okay, AJ Brown, four touchdowns, 280 yards, and then Jalen Hurts runs for 50 yards. Everybody wants him to have some crazy Lamar Jackson stat line on top of winning everything. And it's like, the more people focus on that, the less I care. And the reason is because when it's all said and done, the only thing that matters is a win. He's under center when they win it, and it's not in a way to where it's like he's just being carried. I think that's just the biggest bullshit. Defenses are scheming Jalen Hurts. They know what he's able to do. That's why if you guys have seen what's going around on Twitter, you got one side of Twitter saying, well, he only had this many yards, this, that. And you had the other half saying, bro, look, literally nothing's open. This is terrible play calling. And you got a lot of Eagles fans calling for the OC's head. And it's like, it is early. We're winning out of spite of our offensive coordinator. And we've done that before. The same with the defense. The defense, just a few years ago, it's like we have guys that can make plays, but it's like our play calling is just terrible. And that kind of is also a theme that's been big time in Philadelphia for, again, I would say like the last 4 or 5 years. It's like we have the personnel. Okay, cool. Or we got this guy, or we drafted this guy, right? But it's like, why can't we just do what the Bengals are doing, with Joe Burrow? Why can't we do what the Ravens are doing, or what, their Stafford's doing it in LA, with at the time he only had Cooper Kupp and Tutu Atwell and God knows who else, it doesn't really matter. But it's like, before he got Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, of course, it's like, what are they doing? And I noticed that they are going out there, they're running plays, they're getting looks, but they're losing games. So it's like, at some point, you have to understand that the end result is and always has and always will be the most important thing, bar none. So I'm not worried about, well, look at Jalen Hurts' stats. We've been worried about his stats for the past 5 years. Since 2021, when he actually took over the role. Everybody's been worried about his stats. He can't do this, can't do that. The man has never missed the playoffs. He's been in the playoffs every year since he's been in the league. Okay? He took over for Carson Wentz and completely revamped that entire offense. And what I mean by revamped it is it's his ability to lead. And you guys can take that however you want to take it. But what I'm trying to say is there's been times, and I'm very guilty of this myself, I hated Tom Brady for a lot of years because I'm like, oh, he's just checking down. He's checking down to Kevin Falk. He's just checking down to Gronk. Oh, he's just Gronk. And then you got on the other side for a little while there, Aaron Hernandez. And it's just like, okay, now Wes Welker is running a slant. We can all say that. What's the end result? Dubs. And now I realize it. Would I want Jalen Hurts to go out here and have these astronomical numbers and also win games? Yes. But I'll tell you what, right now, I would much rather Jalen Hurts win this way, like he has time and time again, under center, knowing that the defense is scheming him, which is why he's just like, okay, fuck it. There's nothing there. I'm going to play conservative football. Why the hell would you do? Why? It's literally counterproductive to do the opposite. And this is not coming from a Jalen Hurts, stand since day one. No, I have criticized him heavily about 2-3 years ago. It was the first Super Bowl that he appeared in where I was like, okay, hold on, wait a minute. I'm starting to get it now because he's performing in the playoffs. Obviously, he's performing in the Super Bowl. He does have it in him, but he did what he needed to do to win, and he works with what he has. And I'm just looking around. I'm like, what would you rather have? Would you rather him be like Joe Burrow in the Bengals, where everybody's like, well, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. He ain't won shit. Did he make it to the Super Bowl? Yeah. Should he have been there? Probably not. But he hasn't won shit. And we can go even deeper down the rabbit hole with Josh Allen, who was, supposed to be quadruple the quarterback Jalen Hurts ever was and will be. Then you got Lamar Jackson, the same thing. It's all these guys that are supposed to be so good. And I get it. They're just quarterbacks. They're one player on a team. So if they're just one player on a team, then why the fuck you guys hold so much weight on Jalen Hurts' performance? But when it comes to them, you guys move the goalposts. Well, they're doing the most and they're losing. Well, he's not doing enough and they're winning. It's like at some point, you have to understand that Jalen Hurts is just the smarter quarterback. He's smarter. And it's not even close. He makes the right decision 90% of the time, to where a lot of other quarterbacks do not. They'll get the yards early. You got Dak Prescott. He's a prime example. He'll put up 1 million yards a goddamn season. Great first half. Come into the game hot. Throw for 2 touchdowns and probably, $150 in the first half. okay, and end up either losing the game or not doing shit in the playoffs. It's like that performance goes down. And I actually have the stats right here, like I just told you on my notebook. You know who stats? There's only 2 quarterbacks out of the GOATs that I have listed, which I'm not going to talk about right now. That's neither here nor there. There's 2 quarterbacks whose stats go up in the playoffs, and that is Mahomes, and that is Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts in both touchdown passes and average touchdown passes and average yards per game goes up. I'll tell you guys who's don't off the jump. Peyton Manning's one and Tom Brady's one. Now I'm not saying both those statistics are down, but it's not like they're playing better in the playoffs. Would you say that they're playing more conservative? And in some cases, they fucking lose. Like Peyton Manning, don't even win shit. So what I'll say is this: after saying all that, I'm not worried about this damn game. I'm not worried about this team. Okay, I'm gonna worry about this team when it's time to worry about this team. And as long as we're winning, that's all I give a shit about. That's that. We found a way to win, and we're looking at all of you guys talk about this shit called stats, and it's like, yeah, you know what? Let's dive deeper into stats. Fuck Jalen Hurts. Forget about Saquon Barkley. Forget about AJ Brown. We're winning. Is that a stat or no? Is that a stat? Do we ignore that stat? That stat doesn't matter. How are we winning? Team camaraderie, understanding how to win, and this is chess, not checkers. Everybody else can keep playing checkers. You know what I'm saying? Jump man, king me. When it's all said and done, our king is still standing. Yours is dead. We win. You can't argue with that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, when it comes to the statistic of wins, that's how I used to justify Jimmy Garoppolo being this 49er starting quarterback for years. It's just he wins. I don't care. He wins. I don't care. He wins. But he never got to the point of winning a Super Bowl like Jalen Hurts did. And now joining us on episode number 158 of Stats Over Politics is none other than the Podfather, Mr. Jaevon Toddy.
Thank you for blessing us with an appearance, brother. We appreciate it.
We're here. We made it happen. Kaz was going on and on about why the Eagles are 2-0. I love it. I love it. He's sick and tired of the disrespect. He doesn't care how we got there. Chris Jones is talking shit to Jalen Hurts in victory formation. Shut your ass up. We still won the game. I thought that was just prime. I love it. So Eagles are 2-0. Might be 3-0 by the end of the week. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I to Kevin and Kaz's point, I saw Jordan Mailata, one of their offensive linemen, went on a local Philadelphia radio station in the past couple of days after the game, and he said, and I quote, that everyone, and this kind of reemphasizes Kevin's point that he said at the top, is that everyone's saying that we won just because of the tush push, and Mailata said, and I quote, that's bullcrap. He obviously used much kinder language than he actually thinks because he knew that he was on the radio with FCC guidelines. But yeah, that's my biggest takeaway from this game is so many people are attributing the Eagles win to the tush push when, as Kevin pointed out, it happened on 11% of plays. And so there's another 89% of the game that happens. And so, Jaevon, now that you're here with us, I just wanted to hear your thoughts. We just heard from the 2 Eagles fans, but what are your thoughts on the Eagles' 20-17 win in Kansas City against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl rematch?
I mean, the Eagles just keep beating them. They beat them, what was it, like 3 years ago, I think it was, when you had Sirianni screaming at fans. That was pretty awesome. You had, obviously, in the Super Bowl, which was the biggest belt to ask that there was. And then you had obviously this past game, the way that how they won, it wasn't what we're accustomed to seeing. Jalen Hurts didn't have the biggest game. Patrick Mahomes turned the ball over. The Chiefs didn't really, they just seemed like they were like just a step behind the entire game. And you just wondered when they would take that next step on, okay, this is the chance that they're going to do it. Mahomes missed a deep ball to Thornton late in the game. That was very uncharacteristic. I just think you guys can blame everything on the tush push, but if you can, the way to stop the tush push is to keep them at bay. Don't let them get in 3rd and short situations. You want them to get in 3rd and long, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, in that range. If it's 3rd and 2, you realize they have 2 opportunities to get that first down. And Sirianni is the type that he doesn't care where they are on the field. It's going to be 2 downs to get those 2 yards, basically. So Chiefs are 0-2. They got a lot to. They're in. I don't think they've ever started 0-2 since Patrick Mahomes has been there. That's probably there's a stat probably out there.
That's correct.
Says,
since 2013.
Yeah, since 2013. That Shaun is invisible in this light. You're wondering where he is in my house. But
we're here. We're just trying out a new feature that StreamYard offers, putting you on the main screen.
I think that right now the Chiefs are in a very uncharacteristic situation. These fans, this organization is in new territory with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid at the helm, and they're acting like that spoiled rich kid that's like, hey, my coffee is $6 today, and I usually get the whipped cream and all of this in it, and it's black today. And it's just like, hey, buddy, like, we ran out of this. Like, I need you to kind of calm down a little bit. I'm sorry we ran out of this, but this is the other option that we have. Well, I need to speak to the manager, and you know who my father is, and just all these things are kind of, that's what you're getting from these Chiefs fans, from just, they have coasted to AFC championships literally the past 6-7 years that Patrick Mahomes has been the quarterback. And now they're like, my card declined. What do you mean my card declined? You know
that shit again.
You know how much money that I have in my bank account, and it's like, okay, Bucko, like, relax. You're 0-2. I think if we look at it from just the grand scheme of things, do we all think the Chiefs are going to miss the playoffs? I don't think anyone on this panel thinks that that's going to happen. Like, they would have to get it.
It's a long 4 or 5 weeks till Rashid Rice get back.
Kevin does.
Kev is the outlier person that you kind of just you take with a grain of salt what he says. I think we all can say that they're probably better than the Jags. I feel like that 6-7, no pun intended, that
6-7.
range and where they might be, that 6-5, like maybe in that range. Because if you look at it, there's the Bills, there's the Ravens. I'm trying to think of the other. Whoever wins that the AFC South division, that's 3, and then you're kind of just Joe Burrow's out for 3 months. It's like the grass is greener for them. I don't think that it's all coming downhill. Now, if we start looking at 0-3, I think it's time to sound the alarm bells there. As for the Eagles, I think the Eagles are just, me and Kevin, we always talk every single day, despite the fact that he's like one of my best friends. I mean, it's just, we go constantly back and forth on what the Eagles' schedule will look like. It's like, oh, well, Kevin's like, the schedule here, the schedule there. You guys are talking. Kevin's like, relax. This is the same schedule we had last year. We're going to start 2-0, 3-0, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. We beat all these same teams last year. What's new? Well, you guys have the toughest schedule according to this guy and that guy. Kevin's like, all right, whatever. Yeah, the schedule. Line them up on Sunday. We're going to be the better team. And that's what it's been. I mean, they beat the Cowboys. That might have something that you can just take with a grain of salt what the Cowboys might be. But then they went on the road, and they were favored on the road, which was a little bit insane, and beat Patrick Mahomes again. So I think what needs to happen is the Chiefs need to look themselves in the mirror on what they are as a team. We get a Rashid Rice. The free Rice shirts, I will say, kind of crazy. Kind of crazy on the whole background of what really was going on and how long it actually took for him to get officially suspended. But I do believe that they got to look themselves in the mirror on who they are as a team, because I don't know if they're the same Chiefs team that won 2 years ago. I can guarantee you that, especially not right now. And the Eagles are, I wouldn't say the same team as last year, but they're going to be one of the favorites to come out of the NFC. And they are realizing what their identity is. And it might not align with everybody that's on that roster, AJ Brown. But they're still winning. They're still winning these games. So they're 2-0. The Eagles fans could give a shit on how the outcome is. We're 2-0. So it's literally opposite ends of the spectrums from both of these teams and where they're going to be moving forward.
Yeah, I agree, Jaevon. And the last thing that I wanted to add regarding this game that hasn't already been said, and Kevin was talking about, or Kaz was talking about earlier, the stats. That was the biggest outlier for me in this game. Obviously, 20-17 isn't very high scoring. And before I give the rest of my analysis, I wanted to highlight a comment from Instagram. Noted Eagles fan at Big Sal Bruss 65 says, "Hey man, if it ain't broke, don't fix it," as he puts the hang loose emoji along with an eagle. And now regarding the rest of my thoughts on this game is regarding the statistics. If you had told me that Jalen Hurts would be 15 of 22 for 101 yards passing without a passing touchdown and rushing 9 times for 15 yards, he did have a rushing touchdown, I would have thought that the Eagles lost this game. As was noted earlier, the key stat for Jalen Hurts, 0 interceptions, 0 fumbles. That's important. And Saquon had himself a solid game. It's not popping on the paper, but 22 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown, that's averaging 4 yards a carry. Like, if you get 4 yards a carry on 3 straight plays, that's a first down. And so that's nothing to scoff at. But the biggest thing for me was Jalen Hurts' overall stats and the fact that the Eagles did win this game despite that. But a win is a win is a win has already been said. My biggest gripe with this game, and this is a personal gripe, and I'm going to bring it back to the 4 of us to say this one. Where is A.J. Brown? Jaevon said him earlier. Where is A.J. Brown? He is supposedly the Batman. Where is A.J. Brown? I have him on one of my fantasy teams. He has been a major disappointment for me so far. I drafted him in the 2nd round. I wish I could have used this meme so far this season, but I'm the one who needs tissues because A.J. Brown has been invisible. The Eagles are 2-0, but Kevin, where is A.J. Brown?
Hey man, when you're winning Super Bowls and hanging up banners, they're gonna play you different. And they're like we saw in the Super Bowl, they said AJ Brown or Jalen Hurts, you got to beat us. Now they're saying throw the ball to somebody else. AJ's come out on shows saying they're shading coverage to his side, they're doubling them. So it's hard, man. When we struggle at the wide receiver 3 position, it's going to be evident. We had no Dallas Goedert in that game, so I feel like if Dallas Goedert's out there, it's a little bit different. But AJ Brown's the 3rd best receiver in the world for a reason. And I just wanted to go out here and throw out a quick stat. When he was in Tennessee, averaging 120 yards a game, they were winning 3 games a year. Ask him today, what would he prefer? 68 yards and 2-0, or averaging 140 and going top of the draft? Not playing for shit. Week 4, talking about what we going for the summer. You know what I mean? He's seen the other side of the coin.
Yeah, I think that, again, the Eagles are playing chess, not checkers here. And I think that, what do you do here, guys? And what's coming here soon. What do you do here when the Eagles are winning without using A.J. Brown? Week 3, maybe week 4, maybe week 5. Then all of a sudden, what do teams start to do? There's a thing called scout team. And if you guys never played football, I'll tell you what it is, which I'm sure some of you guys have. But your scout team, especially at the college level, which I was on scout team because I was a walk-on, you're giving them looks. You're giving whoever you're playing that week when you're on scout team, you're giving your starting defense looks. At some point, if you want to beat the Eagles, you're going to have to go, okay, we don't know if A.J. Brown's going to get the ball or not. So let's just go ahead and shout, because right now, what are they trying to do? Like you said, AJ said on podcasts, whatnot, they're shading to his side, they're double covering, and obviously our play calling. I'm not going to bitch about that. We've already had previous seasons where we've had bad OCs that don't know what the hell they're doing. It is what it is. The play calling is trash. It's been proven. It's everywhere. It's all over Twitter. Just look up Eagles play calling and you'll find people going, look at these guys running curls. There's nothing there. It's just covered. So everyone wants Jalen Hurts to throw these guys open. It's like, bro, that's how you throw picks. The hell there's no creativity. So we're going to move past that. But what I'll say is, at some point, like I said, chess, not checkers. I think that this is a little strategy that the Eagles have going on right now. A.J. Brown may not be the biggest fan of it, but he will eventually have his games. Will he finish as the top wide receiver in the league when it comes to yards? Possibly not. But we'll see where we finish at wins-wise, which is the most important stat. He will have his games. He'll have a 150-yard game. He'll probably have close to a 200-yard game at some point. We'll have games where he has 8 to 10 catches or whatever in a handful of touchdowns. Those games are going to come. But right now, we're doing the smart thing. Because hear me out. Not saying that we're playing, we have to play this conservative, but you lose A.J. Brown. Just think about that. You lose AJ Brown for 6 to 8 weeks, something crazy like that, right? You're stuck with Devonta Smith, who I love dearly, who can play a wide receiver one role on a lot of teams, I believe. Okay, and Jahan Dotson. Do you know how much that changes your offense right there? That means, guess what? Stack the motherfucking box, and we don't care about nothing. Saquon Hurts. They're kind of trying the opposite right now, where it's like, no. Make Hurts beat us with his arms. And he's like, well, I'll just beat you with my legs if I need to, or I'll just give it to Saquon. It's strategic as hell. So I'm not saying that they're not using AJ Brown just to preserve him from, injury. You got to use your guys, but just do what works. It is really that simple. And I know that fans hate it, like not Eagles fans, NFL fans hate it. But again, it was the same shit that I witnessed my entire life watching the Patriots. They had 1 year where they went off, and that's when they had Randy Moss. That was 1 year. Other years, did Tom Brady have a lot of yards? Yes. You know what those yards looked like? A lot of yak, a lot of checkdowns, a lot of running backs going off.
And a lot of banners.
Yes, and a lot of banners. Wes Welker is not a guy that's just going to go and take over a game. But you know what? They found something that worked when he was there, and they utilized him the right way. Julian Edelman, I would say he has potential, but he's still an undersized slot receiver. He's not a big guy. He's a slot receiver. But he had Tom Brady throwing to him, and they had good offensive line and a great defense. He's not a guy who's going to go out there and take over a game. He's not going to do what Malik Neighbors just did to the Cowboys. That ain't Wes Welker. That's not Julian Edelman. You guys understand that, right? But if you look at that game, which is a perfect example, the Giants still lost. And that game was awesome. Malik said, man, give me the rock. I'm taking over. Randy Moss type shit. And did just that. And they lost. It's just one of those things. So with AJ Brown, just give it I'll give it 2 more weeks. We'll have a game over 100 yards. It may not even happen this week. We got the Rams at home. So we'll see what happens there. But again, depending on who we're playing, if we can win this way and just and keep these guys just nice, well-oiled and get ready for the bigger games later on. As of right now, I'm thinking like, man, let's get this first round bye quick as possible. Let's go 13-0. Let's go 14-0. I want that. If that means we're just doing this boring ass style football and we're preserving these guys and we're just working with what the defense gives us, not trying anything cute. Do you think I give a shit? I know what's coming after that. So AJ is going to have to just, realize this is his role right now on this team. He's not going to have some, 15, 1,700 yard season, in 20 touchdowns. It's just not going to be a thing in Philadelphia. Not when we have as good as running game as we do, and not when we have the play calling that we do. That works. It's just that simple.
Yeah, and as Sal says on Instagram, well, I feel if we would motion him more, maybe he'll get more open. I just don't know if A.J. Brown is necessarily that type of receiver to be constantly in motion. But that's my opinion. I don't know A.J. Brown as well as the 2 guys below me on the screen. And Sal also says regarding the Eagles and Chiefs game, it was a very defensive game, in my opinion. It's always tough when you're on the road. And so that's it for the Eagles and Chiefs. We have, as Kevin said, we've seen that matchup like 5 times in the last 3 years, 4 years. It's happened a lot. This is arguably the game of the year so far as matchups go, and probably for a while. I mean, Eagles and Rams is going to be a damn good one too. But having a Super Bowl rematch this early in the season, it's arguably going to be the game of the year for a while as far as just matchups go. But Jaevon, I don't know about you. I was not necessarily locked into this game, and it was just out of straight bitterness because I hate both of these teams, and I just did not want to watch the Eagles and the Chiefs play again. But, that's just me. As we keep things moving here on Stats Over Politics, I wanted to highlight some YouTube comments real quickly as cousin Marcellus, who's been a frequent guest here on the podcast, is getting active in the comments as he says, parlay with me. Hurts and Barkley won me money. Vonnie, get in with me. Says it again. And then he says, it was just bad offense across the board. Defense wins championships. And so I'll take that with a bit of a grain of salt there. As we keep things moving here on episode 158 of Stats Over Politics, Shaun Holko alongside Kaz Johnson, Kevin Dent, and Jaevon Toddy. Guys, let's get to our next game that we're going to dissect. And that's the Bengals beating the Jaguars 31-27. And for those of you who may not have tuned into the game, you may be wondering, why are they talking about the Bengals and the Jaguars of all games? And it's because there was a significant injury that happened in this game, unfortunately, as Joe Burrow, and I hate to say it, the consistently injured Joe Burrow, got hurt again in this game. This time it's a turf toe injury. And for those of you who may not be locked into sports, turf toe injury doesn't sound that bad. It's like, oh, he hurt his toe. He'll be okay. No, Joe Burrow's going to be out for 3 months. He's going to need surgery. And it's Wednesday now, so he probably already had it. But Joe Burrow is going to be out at least 3 months, which, if you do the quick math in your head, that brings you to the middle of December. The NFL season ends the first week of January. And so it's not looking good for my pick to win the Super Bowl, being the Cincinnati Bengals. And so because I picked the Bengals to win the Super Bowl, I'm going to start things off. And it doesn't look good right now with Joe Burrow out for the next 3 months. The Bengals just have to get into the playoffs to even have a chance to make a run when Joe Burrow comes back. But luckily, the Bengals have Jake Browning, a seasoned backup quarterback from Folsom, California. He led the Bulldogs to multiple section titles, to a state championship. Arguably the greatest prospect to ever come out of the Sacramento area until the guy who's at Folsom right now, Ryder Lyons, 5-star BYU commit. Jake Browning is that dude. He hasn't had a spectacular NFL career, but he's still in the NFL for a reason. He came out of Washington like 6 years ago. He's still in the NFL for a reason. It's because he's a reliable quarterback. Does he have the stuff to be a starter? Obviously not. Otherwise, he would be. But Jake Browning isn't a scrub, and he can keep the Bengals alive this season. And the Bengals defense hasn't been bad so far this season. That was the talk coming into this season. And if my memory serves correctly, the Bengals allowed 16 points to the Browns in week 1. It's the Browns. I get it. Then they allowed 27 points to the Jaguars in week 2. A big reason for that is Jake Browning getting thrown into the fire without any preparation other than as the backup. He threw 3 interceptions in this game. But if you ignore the 3 interceptions, which I know is a lot to ignore, Jake Browning's stat line looked pretty decent. 21 of 32, 241 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jamar Chase had a big game, 14 receptions, 165 yards, and a touchdown. I know. It's very important, Jaevon. Those 3 interceptions. And I'm disregarding those just for the sake of my argument, and everyone's going to tear apart my argument because I am ignoring those. I'm choosing to selectively ignore those 3 interceptions. I'm just saying, give Jake Browning a chance. I think he can keep the Bengals alive for them to sneak in at that 6-7 spot in the playoffs, get a wild card spot, as Jaevon was talking about earlier. It's kind of wide open in the AFC of who might get that 6-7 spot. Jake Browning, with the weapons around him, in a Jamar Chase and a T. Higgins, arguably, I know the Eagles fans might say differently, but arguably one of the best wide receiver duos in the league, definitely top 5, probably top 3, could be the best. With those 2 guys around him, adding in Chase Brown coming out of the backfield, Jake Browning has the weapons for him to succeed in this offense with preparation, knowing he's going to be the guy for the next 3 months. And everyone, and I'm talking directly to Kevin. I know you're not on the screen right now, but everyone wants to slander Brock Purdy for the weapons that he has around him. Well, Jake Browning can basically cosplay Brock Purdy the best that he can here and just utilize the weapons around him to look like a good quarterback, keep the Bengals alive, get them to the middle of December. Joe Burrow could come back for the last 2 to 3 regular season games. They get into the playoffs. And then if that defense continues to play decent, the Bengals can make a run. And my bold prediction for the Bengals to win the Super Bowl this year could still be possible. But that's my thoughts. Obviously, I'm a little biased because I'm sticking with my pick of the Bengals. But it's off to a rough start with Joe Burrow out for the next 3 months with a turf toe injury. Jaevon, what were your thoughts on Joe Burrow's injury, but also the Bengals beating the Jaguars 31-27?
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals, they're 2-0 right now. They usually don't start the years off strong. But I mean, it's all fun and games until you drop 3 straight. Jamar Chase is angry that he's now getting targets. T. Higgins hasn't been targets. Both of those guys announced both of their deals this past summer of them re-signing to the Bengals. But I mean, Browning, I mean, he has a gunslinger mentality. Obviously, he's from Sacramento, Folsom, California, to be exact. I think it's just, how long are they going to wait this out? I mean, we heard the quote from Joe Burrow, the window is every year that I'm on the team. Well, you're going to be out the next 3 months, virtually out the rest of the year. And Shaun pointed out that there will be 2 to 3 games left when Joe Burrow should be opening his practice window to return. Now, what is he returning to? Is he returning to a team that's 7-10 and it's over? Or is he returning to a team that's on the fence, fighting for it? Those last 2 to 3 games are pivotal in what they can be. So I think what has to happen is the Bengals got to see what they got in Jake Brown in these next couple of games. And then if they're cooked, they got to look elsewhere. They got to go and soul search for, well, I mean, it's going to be kind of tough, but Kirk Cousins is out there. I'm not even going to lie, the Bengals are kind of fucked. It's tough on how this works because Kirk Cousins isn't a free agent, and they have to pay some of his contract.
Mac Jones is out there.
It's going to be tough.
Oh, yeah. All right. Mako said no to Mac Jones. Mac Jones should remain a 49er in his opinion.
Yeah. I just think that Browning, what he has to do is he has to figure out, the Browns have to figure out what they want to do as a franchise. Do they want to go out and get somebody? I saw something like people were talking about they should go get Shador. How ready is Shador Sanders? I'm not sure. But I do think when it comes to the Browns season currently, I'm not sold on them still having a chance to become a playoff team. I think they're kind of cooked as far as that goes.
All right, Kevin, what are your thoughts on the Bengals losing Joe Burrow and also beating the Jaguars 31-27?
So there's a lot of people, worried. What is Joe Burrow going to do? What are the Bengals going to do? We all are football heads. We all know the names. The Tom Bradys, the Kurt Warners, the Brett Favres, the Nick Foles. Quarterbacks that got their shot because the starter went down. The good thing for the Bengals is that this guy's been in the building for a while. He is 4-3 as a starter, and in 2022 he played 9 games. In 2024 he played 3 games. So to have that kind of experience as a backup quarterback with this team, with these weapons, goes a long way. I know Shaun mentioned, with Mac Jones coming in there and playing better than Brock Purdy, no turnovers. Is it the system or is it the quarterback? We saw the Bengals struggle a lot. Every season they start off losing games they shouldn't lose. But what I really want to focus on is, yes, Jake Browning. I think Jake Browning is going to be very successful. And the question really comes down to, once Joe Burrow comes back, is if you make that switch. We saw what happened with Troy Aikman when he went down and the quarterback led them to the Super Bowl. Like, if they're winning games, do you make that call? We saw Andrew Luck retire because the offensive line was horrendous. In his first 71 games, he only played 71 games of his career. He retired due to injuries after being sacked 157 times. Joe Burrow in 71 games has been sacked 201 times. He has not had an offensive line ranked higher than 27 his whole career. In 2020, his rookie year, they were ranked 29th. 21, they were ranked 30th. They were ranked 30th again in 22. 23rd, in 2023, they were ranked 27th. 2024, 32nd, and this year, 28th. Is Joe Burrow injury prone? He's always hurt. This is not something that is a one-off. So when are these injuries going to catch up to him? In 2020, towards ACL, towards MCL. 2021, dislocated his pinky. Last year was his calf injury. So he's really put together one full healthy season. And as a Bengals fan, I'd be questioning, Is this the guy? Is he going to be able to last decades of a quarterback? But there are always stories, like I said, the Kurt Warners of the world, the Tom Brady's of the world that get their shots because a player of their high caliber goes down and they're able to be successful. Jake Browning has the weapons. The O-line shit, but you got the weapons. We heard Joe Burrow saying sign T. Higgins, sign Jamar Chase. You ain't never heard him say sign a lineman. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But in 3 months, if the Bengals are winning, I think they're going to tell Joe to hold that clipboard.
Ooh, I don't know if I'd go that far. That's all the talk right now between Purdy and Mac Jones is, if Mac Jones plays well, then Brock Purdy with his big contract can ride the bench. Joe Burrow, I love Brock Purdy, but Joe Burrow is on another level than Brock Purdy to even consider that. And the one rebuttal I'll say, we don't need to go back and forth on it because I still want to hear from Kaz, but is Joe, and you alluded to it there, Kevin, but is Joe Burrow injury prone or are the Bengals continuously failing to protect him? Because you mentioned the offensive line. I remember, I think it was the 2021 draft, I believe, when the Bengals had that 5th pick and they obviously needed offensive line help. And the talk was, do you draft Penei Sewell or do you draft Jamar Chase? Obviously, Jamar Chase has turned into arguably a top 5 wide receiver in the game. Some would say he's top 3, even number 1. But a meme that I will never forget regarding Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell was it was a photo of Joe Burrow getting tackled and trying to throw to Jamar Chase 40 yards down the field, or Joe Burrow throwing to anyone else and actually being able to because Penei Sewell was right there in front of him blocking for him. That's my point is the Bengals have failed to protect Joe Burrow. If you put me back there, I'm going to be injury prone behind that Bengals offensive line. Anyone would, at least in my opinion, but we'll leave that there. Kaz, what were your thoughts on the Bengals beating the Jaguars 31-27, but losing Joe Burrow along the way?
It's just a setup for a good story when it's all said and done. I think the Bengals will make the playoffs without me even looking at their schedule. Shaun, you made a good point. Jake Browning is. I think it was you. Yeah, you or Kevin. One of you guys made a good point, and you said that he's been around for a while and he's won some games, and he's won some games, and backup quarterbacks that have a role. They're not there just to come in and start 1 or 2 games. Sometimes they got to come in and start 6-8 games. It's not a uncommon thing, unfortunately. You look at the Cowboys when it comes to Cooper Rush. Like, we only know his name because Dak Prescott went down a couple times, right? You look at guys like we don't even know who the hell Tanner McKee is if Jalen Hurts doesn't go down, or not just goes down, but just if Jalen Hurts played like in the preseason games and stuff like that. These backups, they have a very pivotal role, and they're still NFL quarterbacks. Some are very, very bad. Some are very serviceable. And like you mentioned also, you talk about guys who are backups that eventually turn out to be starters. This preseason, we were talking about how good Tanner McKee looked, and we're like, us Eagles fans were like, yo, this is good trade equity. Like, there might be a team that needs a guy like this. I can go out there. He has a good arm. He's extremely accurate, and he knows how to play football in the NFL. I think Jake Browning's on that same level. So I don't foresee the Bengals really taking a massive step backwards. Will they take a step backwards? Yes. But all you got to do is just switch up your play calling, make some adjustments, and you do still have guys there, like you said, arguably the best receiving core in the NFL, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. It doesn't take much. You look at Jameis Winston with Mike Evans, putting up 1 million yards. You look up Dado Jones with Malik Neighbors, and mixing in a couple other quarterbacks, but no good quarterback out of New York. But Malik Neighbors still had a really good rookie year. And this can go on and on with quarterbacks where it's like, okay, these receivers are amazing, but their quarterbacks are trash. So clearly they're still able to make something happen. So I just think that this will be a true testament to how good the Bengals play calling is, how good their coaching is. Their defense will be what their defense is. I think that this will be definitely a huge opportunity for Chase Brown to kind of put the team on his back and make some key plays and keep the chains moving. But for the most part, I mean, you got to see the Browns twice. You got to win those games. Just point blank. Let's just start right there. So you can get 2 wins out of the Browns, and it's possible. Can you beat the Ravens one time? I don't know. Probably not. Can you beat the Steelers one time? Yes, I think you can. The Steelers just got dog walked by the Seattle Seahawks, who are supposed to be a team that's not anything to really fear, but a team that, they added in Sam Darnold, and then what else? You know what I mean? Kenneth Walker was supposed to be on the decline. He had a tremendous game, if I'm not mistaken. You got guys over there like Jackson Smith and Jigba. They have a solid, defensive, a couple of key players on their defense that, have big names, but all in all, the Seahawks are not a great team, and they beat a team like the Steelers. So looking at the division alone, I'm like, the Bengals can definitely win games with Jake Browning under center when it comes to their division matchup. Now, I have not checked their schedule, and I'm not going to check their schedule because I want to just stick to my thoughts on what I think can happen. And I just think that if you look at the Bengals, when they have been winning games, even though Joe Burrow, who actually, to answer your question earlier, he is injury prone. That is what it is. He's injury prone. It doesn't matter if there's a lack of protection or not. There's been plenty of quarterbacks that have not had prolific offensive linemen that have not been hurt every year like this. His injuries are significant. He comes into the league, tears the ACL. That's significant. Now, significant not meaning that he can't bounce back from that because obviously he did, but that's an injury towards that's a season gone, done. Okay, the thumb injury, that took him out forever. This injury, 3 months, that is the season. Let's just call it what it is. That is that. We're talking about you got to make the playoffs in order to even see Joe Burrow again. And who's to say that after the 3 months, he comes back right away? What if it takes, an extra week? Nobody said it's going to be 90 days on the money. His expected return time is 3 months. So, Joe Burrow's injury prone. And I know it sucks to say because he's so talented, but he is injury prone. He can't find a way to protect himself. That's an injury prone quarterback. It's not that he's dropping back and there's nothing there and he's just getting blasted. There's ways to protect yourself. If you're injury prone and you need to take a sack by, maybe just sliding down early rather than trying to extend a play, then you do that. It's called being smart, knowing that you're injury prone. And there's been quarterbacks that has done that a lot. I.e. Jalen Hurts early in his career used to piss me off with that. He's running, and he just slides down on his butt. I'm like, dude, make some shit happen. But you know what? Maybe he don't want to get his back broke. So, I can't really be too upset about him taking what I would call unnecessary sacks when he has, pretty solid longevity being in the league. This was his 6th year, I think it is. So, I don't know, man. I think that the Bengals will be fine, but they're gonna need some great coaching. It's that simple. They can do it with the backup. They just need to win. They already got 2 wins, which is huge. That's big. Can you get to 10 or 11, dog? Can you get to 10 or 11? I think it's very, very doable. So I wouldn't hit the panic button yet with the Bengals because even when they did have Joe Burrow, this wasn't a team that was going out there winning 14 games and 13 games. They've never been that team besides the one year they went to the Super Bowl and they were a solid good team. They weren't some powerhouse that could not be stopped. So their identity already, even with Joe Burrow, was never this juggernaut. Stats, like I talked about earlier, we talk about those stats. They are, like I've mentioned in previous episodes, they're a polished turd. The Bengals look nice because of Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow's pretty hair and, T. Higgins. And, that's why they look nice, man. And their uniforms are, they got some cool ass uniforms. But other than that, man, all you got is a bunch of LSU fans that's just sticking to their favorite players that played at LSU. Now they're in the NFL and they're making this bigger what it needs to be on top of the analysts. That's all it is. The Bengals have not been a good team since Joe Burrow's been in the league. Like I said, he probably shouldn't even have been to the Super Bowl. It's my opinion. So if you go back and look at who they played in the playoffs, how they played in the playoffs, and how those games came down, it ain't like they went in there and just ran shit. It looks like to run shit. You seen what the Eagles did last year. That's running shit. Okay, they weren't doing nothing like that. Okay, there's some times even to give your Niners some credit where they've gone to the playoffs. It's like, okay, this team, they're handling business. I don't look at the Bengals, and I never have looked at the Bengals and said that, not one time. They'll have a few games where Jamar Chase goes off. Congratulations, he's a top 2 receiver in the NFL. That happens. That's going to happen. If he does that every week, leading into a first round bye, leading into an AFC championship appearance, then we can talk. But that's not what got them there in the first place when they did go there, and it's not what they're doing right now. So I think we need to kind of pump the brakes on the Bengals a little bit. Understand that even though they lost Joe Burrow, they have never been a team that has been, greatly feared. They're a team that you want to play against in fantasy football. They're not a team you want to play against when it comes to actual football. So we need to kind of separate that and understand that the Bengals losing Joe Burrow is a big deal, obviously, but it's not the end of the world because they still have guys around that can make plays that don't need a Joe Burrow quarterback to get the ball and score some touchdowns. So I think that they can win about 9 more games, 8 or 9 games with Jake Browning and squeak into the playoffs, 100%.
Awesome. I'm really glad to hear that because that would keep my old prediction alive. Because I was told how dumb I was for picking the Bengals to win the Super Bowl. If they can at least keep my hope alive into the playoffs, I'll be satisfied with that.
Man, you're tripping still. I ain't gonna hold you. You're still tripping though, because they ain't getting past Josh or Lamar. I ain't gonna hold you. One of them two's going this year. One of them two going that motherfucker.
We'll see. We'll see if they end up matching up against the Ravens in the playoffs. I mean, yeah, they would have to end up. They would have to face one of them at some point. They'd have to face. I mean, even if they get through the Ravens, they would still have to face Mahomes or Josh Allen. So that's the biggest question mark. But I'm actually more confident in the Bengals playing the Ravens in the playoffs than I am any other team for 2 reasons. Number one, because they're within their division, so they're already going to play them twice this year. Weird shit happens in division games, even in the playoffs. And then on top of that, we've seen the Ravens' tendency to choke late in games. Joe Burrow's back at that point. Then the Bengals could definitely take the Ravens out of the playoffs. But we'll have to wait and see for that matchup to potentially happen as we keep things moving here on episode 158 of Stats Over Politics. But before we do, I just wanted to highlight Sal's comment on Instagram where he says, in all caps, protect Burrow. And he says, LMAO, he needs an offensive line. And I think we can all agree on that, whether if he is injury prone or not, as we keep things moving, guys. Now let's get to our final game that we're going to dissect. And that is one of the Monday Night Football games as the Buccaneers beat the Texans 20-19. And if you missed it on Instagram or X, oops, and I just put the episode cover on the screen. Apologies for that producer error. But if you looked at Instagram or Twitter and you saw the content that Kevin's putting out there, you saw our picks on Monday night, and I was alone on Texans Island. We all picked the Chargers. We were all right on the Chargers, but I was alone on Texans Island, and I was feeling great going late into that game. I was getting excited to puff out my chest and be like, well, I believe in Houston. But then, as Toddy says in that tone of voice, Baker Mayfield broke away. The Texans win in an all-out blitz. Baker Mayfield breaks away, gets a first down. Buccaneers go on to score, win the game 20-19. And so, unfortunately, I was wrong. Congrats to you guys for nailing that pick with the Buccaneers. But, Kevin, I'm going to throw it to you first. Just what was your reaction to this game as the Buccaneers went on the road in Houston 20-19?
We talked about Joe Burrow not having an O-line. We saw the Texans trade their very best O-lineman in Larry Tunsil, and we see C.J. Stroud just getting destroyed back there. Is C.J. Stroud cooked, Shaun? I mean, as an Ohio State fan, it's hurting me, man. It's hurt me deep. I was expecting him to come out last year and really double down on that first year. We called it a sophomore slump. We're going to create a new term called a junior year slump, a junior year hangover. This team is in shambles. You know, we thought that they can always turn this switch and they're always going to win the division. They're starting off 0-2. They haven't played a divisional game yet, which is the one bright side of this. But seeing teams like the Jaguars be coming down to almost being 2-0, you're seeing the Colts 2-0. The Titans are the Titans, but they essentially are not looked at as one of the better teams in the AFC South anymore. I'm really worried about this team. I get it. The Buccaneers are a really good football team, and Baker Mayfield always finds a way to win a game. So it's a pat on the back to lose to a team like that. And like Shaun said, for half the game, we thought they were going to win. And it came down to an all-out blitz and Baker Mayfield making another magical play to get them back in that game, to get a last-minute touchdown. I think we have to have the conversation. We always say it every year. Baker Mayfield. He's doing it year in and year out. Are the Buccaneers legit NFC contender at this point? I know you got the Eagles. Shaun would love to say the Niners. You got the Packers. Are the Lions going to be able to do it again? I think you have to put the Buccaneers as one of those top teams. You got the Rams. There are a lot of good teams in the NFC. The Bucs find a way to get it done, and they're not even at full strength. Can we imagine what this team's going to look like with a Chris Godwin, with a Tristan Wirfs? They're one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL, and they're still finding ways to get it done. You know, we saw last year not the resurgence, but the announcement to the world that Bucky Irving is that guy. Rachaad White is still coming in and being very good. They got guys like Kate on. They have a lot of solid players on the team. Vita Vea was making plays snap after snap after snap. This team is going to find a way to get it done. Okay. They're going to find a way to get it done night in and night out. I think the Texans might be cooked, and it's sad to say.
Yeah, I think Blue agrees that it's been a rough start to CJ Stroud's third year in the NFL. I don't think that he's cooked. I just think that the Buccaneers are a good team. Would I go as far to say that they're contenders? Probably not, just because, like, for years we always talked about, like, the NFC is very top heavy. Like, you have 1 to 2 teams at the top, and then it's just the rest. This year, it's looking different. Like, I would say, and this is not even including my 49ers in it, I'd say the Eagles, Commanders, Packers, Lions, even the Vikings. I know J.J. McCarthy is hurt now, but I throw the Vikings in there. Then maybe we and I don't know if I said the Rams, and then you even throw in the 49ers. That's 7 teams that I would put ahead of the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are going to get into the playoffs again because they're going to win the NFC South, but I'm still taking 7 teams above them. And I think you can really only say 4 to 5 teams are truly contenders when it comes to winning a Super Bowl. So I personally wouldn't put the Buccaneers in there, but I think they're a really good team, and that's why they got this road win on Monday Night Football in Houston. Just like the Buccaneers may coast to an NFC South championship, I don't know if it's going to be as likely for the Texans anymore in the AFC South, because the Colts are off to a strong start. And we'll talk about that briefly in our speedy Week 2 NFL recap. But before we get there, Kaz, what were your thoughts on the Buccaneers beating the Texans 20-19?
I mean, I think it could have been a lot worse than what it was. Shout out to both defenses. Like, they look good, man. You hold teams under 20 points for the most part, for a majority of the game. I think that's a pretty solid defensive performance all around. It's not like anything shady was going on. I don't feel like the refs were really, siding one way versus the other, really. Based off what I saw, it was just a hot start, and the defensive coordinators on both ends made adjustments, and they made it very difficult for the offenses to score this game. But veterans always find a way, man. And I think Kevin said it best. You look at that Bucs team. I mean, Baker Mayfield is a veteran, obviously. He's really good at winning too. Just call it what it is. Mike Evans, I don't need to explain who he is and what he's able to do. Bucky Irving is really a guy. They have a solid defense in previous years. I mean, leading back to when they last won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady, they've been solid, man. They're well coached, and I don't know. You leave a game like that close. You got CJ Stroud in his 3rd year now, and we talk about that, like you mentioned, the sophomore slump, and maybe it is a 3-year slump. I don't know, but the Texans were still hurt. It is just Nico Collins there. Who was it? Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz. You got Nick Chubb and what's remaining of his knee in the backfield. I mean, their offense is injured, so I mean, they're only going to be as good as we're seeing right now until guys come back. I mean, they're not a complete football team right now. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I would say, they don't really need much outside of just some healthy players. But the guys who are healthy in Tampa Bay are their superstars for the most part. Guys that can make plays happen. I'm going to butcher his name, but they got the receiver. What's his name? Egbuka?
Emeka? Ibuka.
Yeah.
Ibuka. Thank you.
Ohio State.
Oh, okay. Here we go. So
wide receiver, you.
That's he might end up being rookie wide receiver 1 after this one of the season's done. We don't even know. He's nice, man. And you mentioned guys like Kate Otten, who they got at the tight end spot, and outside of Bucky Irving, Rachaad White is a very serviceable RB2. The dude is a pass catching freak. He's a phenomenal. He's one of the best in the league at it, honestly. If you guys don't believe me, go back and check his stats of previous years. So, like, yeah, you give me all that, and then you add in, boom, Baker Mayfield and Todd Bowles, the head coach. They were supposed to win that game. It was a road game. It was any road game's a big game, especially early on, because you gotta win those early games. You need to get them out the way. So they went into Houston, who's coming off a loss. You'd probably think they have a little bit of momentum, maybe a little bit of extra, oomph behind them because it's a home game. And like, nope, even though it's a tight game, we're gonna still find a way to win because we are the more poised team, we're the more experienced team, and we got guys who have been here and done that, and you guys have not been there and done that. So, just a good all around game. And I will say this, I kind of slightly agree with Kevin, not all the way, but I kind of slightly agree with Kevin when he just brought up, well, I guess it was a question, but are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers legit NFC contenders? I think that's a team that more often than not, you can find if they have this same team and, they don't have any nasty injuries to their star players, especially on that offense. I think that's a team that more often than not, 6 out of 10 times can make it to at least a divisional round. So, I mean, if you can get to a divisional round, that's when they won playoff game. I think you can chalk them up for that. Have they done that? No. But right now, given the team that they do have and seeing what I've seen in previous years, they've only made steps forward. They just won a Super Bowl back in 2020, right? Okay. And then they lose Tom Brady, and then they deal with whoever the hell, whatever. Baker Mayfield's running around like crazy, looking like his career's about to be over. Then he gets a contract. Then you got the end of Mike Evans, who is still playing at premier football. Then they go and get a guy like Egbuka, or how the hell you say his name. It's like they're not in Bucky Irving, and they're not taking steps backwards. They're taking steps forward. So being an Eagles fan, I'm identifying what that looks like. I'm aware of it. Okay, hold up. The Bucs are doing the damn thing. On top of that, they beat the shit out of our Eagles all the time. And yes, Kevin, I'm saying beat the shit out of us because they beat us. They beat us. Last time I said they go, well, now wait, they don't beat the shit out of us. To me, they beat our ass, bro. When I'm watching, they control the games, and I'm like, bro, like, come on, man, we can't do shit. We just can't do shit. It may not be 40. It may not be 40-7, but I'm like, dog, we can't do nothing, dog. I know they're gonna get this first down. I know Mike Evans is gonna catch this ball. I know Baker Mayfield's about to run for 15 yards right here. I just know it. So they have, I think that they have somewhat of a very, I wouldn't say a winning culture, but I would definitely say they have a very highly competitive culture. They're a team that you just cannot take lightly. I don't care who you are, AFC, NFC, Baltimore Ravens, Philadelphia Eagles. You go ahead and take the Bucs lightly and see what happens. Watch Mike Evans drop 150 on your head and 3 touchdowns. Beat that. So, yeah, Bucs should have won that game, and I think it should have been worse than that.
Fair enough. As now, guys, we're going to get to the rest of the games from week 2 in the NFL with our speedy week 2 NFL recap, where we each dissect one game apiece. We do it in 60 seconds or less. And Kevin, I'm going to start things off with you. As last Thursday night, the Packers beat the Commanders 27-18.
Dude, Kaz, I think Jaden Daniels is in for that year 2 rookie slump. He looked awful. And I get it. It's Micah Parsons, short week, rookie right tackle. Your second game in the NFL, you go against Micah Parsons on partial snaps. So he's coming in, he's always rested. The biggest thing with this Packers team is, can the offense hold up? Can the offense last a shootout? I mean, they're like Micah Parsons said, you put up 20 points, we'll get you the W. Can this team consistently stay with, we just saw Jaden Reed go down, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson still not back. So can this offense hold up while this team comes together? So Commanders lost. It was an ugly L. They made it look competitive towards the end, but are we in for a second-year rookie slump? So, Toddy, I'm going to swing it to you next. The LA Rams survive a close game with the Titans. The score doesn't say it was close, but there was a minute in that game where the Rams were losing to the Titans. What were your thoughts on that game?
I think the Titans are a very frisky, formidable team that can probably, if the game was 3 quarters, maybe it would have went a different route. But I just think what happened is the Rams figured out a way. Puka Nacua went nuclear in this game. And I think how it's showing that Cam Ward is a rookie quarterback. The touchdown pass that he had was insane, where he threw it all the way across his body. It's an absolutely big no-no. But when you have a talent like Cam Ward, you could do things like that. But I think they'll probably advise him to never do that ever again. I think the Rams defense is a little bit underrated. They're young, but I do think Jared Verse started to come into his own a little bit. I do think it was just a tougher environment. It was a little bit more heightened up for the Titans. Their home opener with their new quarterback, so they were a little bit more giddy than normal. So that's why you kind of saw them staying within that 5.5 point spread. But ultimately, the Rams are the better team and ended up getting the 33-19 victory. And I thought Stafford looked really good at the end. We saw some flashes of Devontae Adams making things happen. Obviously, Puka Nacua is the engine for that offense. So I don't think it was really a surprise with what the outcome was for this game.
Definitely. And Shaun, I'll just keep going since we're already in the order. So I'll just keep, putting my producer hat on, see if I can do it. Kaz, the Ravens bounced back after the Week 1 loss and beat the Browns 41-17.
Yeah, first off, man, fuck you, Derrick Henry. Okay, because who was it? Denzel Ward was talking that shit. Like, somebody asked him, "What's it like to attack Derrick Henry?" He's like, it ain't nothing, bro. And then Derrick Henry gave us that look. Okay, I guess we're gonna see on Sunday. Well, we didn't see shit. We didn't see a goddamn. So we didn't know. I guess we ain't gonna see it. So shout out to my bank account because I lost some money. But yeah, I mean, it's same old song and dance. Okay, it's the Browns versus the Ravens. The Ravens are the powerhouse in that division. They have been for a very, very long time. It's always been them or the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's never been the Browns. What was it? 3 or 4 years ago? That was the only division of football in the history, or the second time in history, or something like that. Every team finished with a positive record, or I think maybe one team, a positive record. So, I mean, that's about the most I've ever seen out of the Browns. But I mean, come on, like you got the Flacco's return game against the Ravens, and you got Jerome Ford, Jerry Jeudy, got Myles Garrett. I guess, but. I mean, this game ended up exactly like it was supposed to. Like, kind of just chalk it up to where it's like they didn't even have to put up that many points on them. But it's like, I mean, what do you do when you're a big bro and little bro comes home from school and you got all this energy and you know what I'm saying, little bro steps with the big bro. You give him a wedgie, give him a noogie, and send him on his way. So you shout out to the Ravens, man, for going in there and doing what they were supposed to do. Nothing to really say about that game. The Ravens should have crushed them.
So, Shaun, in the Mac Jones era, we got to see him go 1-0, lead the San Francisco 49ers to a victory 26-21. Second week where you guys just keep on scraping by. What do you think? Is Mac Jones the guy now?
All right, so the 49ers beat the Saints 26-21 in New Orleans. To answer your question, Kevin, no, Mac Jones is not the guy. They paid Brock Purdy to be the guy, but Mac Jones has elevated his trade stock, and we appreciate him for that. It's only been one game. Brock Purdy might come back in week 3, so if it's a one-game sample size, I am more than happy with that, and all these teams that have injured quarterbacks just like the 49ers, they may be getting desperate for a backup, and hey, you can call us for Mac Jones. I have to give credit where it's due. McCorkle Jones, as Jaevon likes to say, is full government. Mac Jones, he played extremely well in this game and genuinely surprised me. I was confident in him coming into this game. I picked him for one of my FanDuel daily fantasy teams, and he went off. He was cheap, and he went off, and I appreciate him for that. But since we're on the subject of Mac Jones, Brock Purdy might come back on Sunday, and so this may be my only opportunity to give respect and show credit where it's due. I have to just show you guys a clip, and for the audio-only listeners, you'll hear it, but I got to show you guys a clip from April 2021. I should have been a better producer and had it loaded up on the screen, but I got it on my phone right now. This is a clip from April 2021 on the day of the 2021 NFL draft when the 49ers were picking third after they moved up and traded picks with the Miami Dolphins. All the rumors, all the reports was that the 49ers moved up to take Mac Jones, who ended up dropping to 15 in New England. And the Niners, I think, had the 11th pick in that draft. And so they could have just stayed at 11 to get Mac Jones. And so I just didn't understand it. Ultimately, they go with Trey Lance. But this was my reaction in real time to the 49ers drafting Trey Lance. And this is a Snapchat video, so forgive me if it's not the best quality. But I thought about this when I saw Mac ball out on Sunday. And I know I'm going over my minute, but I just feel like this has to be shared. Hold on. Judgment Day. San Francisco 49ers
Super Bowl, here we come.
I was just so excited that it was not Mac Jones. And, you know, now here he is 4 years later as the 49ers backup. And he played extremely well on Sunday in New Orleans. And to finish up, I just got to read his stat line. 26 of 39. He's completing 66% of his passes for 279 yards, 3 touchdowns. The most important stat, 0 interceptions. If he threw 1 pick in this game, the 49ers likely lose to the Aints, arguably the worst team in the NFL. And so credit where it's due. I didn't want the 49ers to take McCorkle Jones 4 years ago. I didn't understand why they would have moved up if he was the guy to pick. They ultimately go with Trey Lance. He can't stay healthy. Now he's a Charger. But, you know, Mac Jones got the job done on Sunday, and I had to give credit where it was due because 4 years ago I was celebrating the 49ers not drafting him, and now he's a 49er, and he played extremely well on Sunday. So got to give him credit where it's due. As Kevin, we're tossing it back to you on this one as the Bills beat the Jets 30-10.
I was a believer. I was fooled. I saw week 1. I said the Jets are back, baby. It's time. And then 5 passes in, Justin Fields takes a hit, and then it's Tyrod Taylor, and the ship just crumbles. Every year we see the Jets, you know, I say it's an emotional roller coaster being a Jets fan. You know, there's a lot of highs, but there's a whole fucking lot of lows. Garrett Wilson, Justin Fields, Ohio State reunion week 1. They almost beat the Aaron Rodgers return game, coming off that hype of week 1 to see them kind of crumble like this. And now Justin Fields is going to be out for week 3. Can Tyrod Taylor, you know, this is the episode about backup quarterbacks. Tyrod Taylor has made a career of it. Can he figure it out? Josh Allen and the Bills put belt to ass. It was expected. I was hoping a lot closer of a game. James Cook is showing why he deserved that money. And Josh Allen, even with a broken nose, coming out one play, get some tissue, going back to the next play, throwing a touchdown. This Bills team is going to be legit. And seeing them play like this when the Chiefs are playing like this, it's not bad to say that the Bills are the best in the AFC.
All right, Jaevon, now let's swing it to another AFC East battle as the Patriots beat the Dolphins 33-27.
Tyreek Hill got a 30-yard pass.
Woo!
That's good news, guys.
Fantasy owners.
Every fantasy owners, do not panic. I would trade Tyreek Hill yesterday. I think what Drake May looked really good in this game. I played against him in fantasy, so I would know. You saw him kind of, spreading the ball out a lot, getting into a bunch of different receivers. I thought May ran a couple of touchdowns, and Drake May played really good in this game. I am starting to have a lot of concerns about the Dolphins and where they are currently as a franchise, what their head coaching situation is going to look like. You just heard all the rumblings early in the you were getting red flags in the offseason training camp and just kind of wondering where everyone's head's at. Tua is just a hit away from being out for the year. We all know his situation with concussions. You're hearing, rumblings from guys like Jordan Schultz who said, watch out for Tyreek Hill and trade conversations. I think the Steelers was a team. The Chiefs were another team to kind of look out for. So Devon Achane, fantasy guys, looked all right in this game too as well. But I mean, just they just have a lot to work on. There's not one thing in particular that they need. And in past years, this team just looked really crisp. Tua looked, if he was accurate, the team would kind of just flourish, and the offense would be able to score points. But right now, it just seems like there's a lot more than football going on with that organization, and it's showing on the field. They're kind of letting a lot of the things off the field leak into on-field play, and it's affecting what their team looks like. It's affecting how the defense is giving up a bunch of points, play calling. You got it. You can name it. And these are talented guys, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. These, like last year, we were saying they were one of the best duos, wide receiver duos in football. And now it's just like, Tua's not skipping passes, and it's just looking very unpleasant. And they are playing against the Buffalo Bills on Thursday Night Football, and the line opened up at 10.5. I believe it's at 13.5 now. So people are I think it's gonna be a massacre on Thursday Night Football. It'll get boring real fast. So the Dolphins, man, I don't know. Are the Dolphins gonna be a top 5 pick? They're gonna have a top 5 pick by the end of the year. That's something that you can definitely
Lenore Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier.
So we'll see.
Well, as Kaz likes to say with the Dolphins and their off-the-field activities, Mike McDaniels grew up in Colorado. He likes the snow, and we'll leave it there. Now, Kaz, when it comes to the NFC East, the Cowboys won a thriller against the Giants, 40-37 in overtime.
Insane game.
Cowboys suck, bro. They suck, bro. I don't care how they looked against us week 1. We didn't have our best player on defense in week 1. Week 1 looks weird, usually more often than not. So I'm not worried about that. But you let New York come into your house, and you guys never lose to the Giants. And I know it's almost, but you legitimately almost lost to the Giants. Like it actually got to the point to where you guys didn't win that game. They lost that game. That's not a good thing. Like, Dallas should have played one of the most just terrible games of their lives in order for me to really give them, any sort of leeway when it comes to that game. But they didn't play I don't really have their stats up like right now, but I know for a fact watching the game, I know Javonte Williams found the end zone. I know George Pickens, I believe he found the end zone as well. They put up 40 points, so guys were scoring. You know what I mean? There was opportunities, and when it comes to that Dallas defense, you got Trevon Diggs there. I was told he's Mr. Lockdown, one of the best corners in the league. Malik had something to say about that. I understand he ain't got DeRon Bland back yet or whatever, but regardless, though, you got the run stuffer, old boy from goddamn Green Bay. Can't even think of his name right now. So it's like, I keep seeing Cowboys Twitter talk about our defense isn't that bad. Our defense isn't that bad. Our run D actually did their job. You're making excuses for how bad your defense is. You're scratching and clawing at any which way you can make your team sound better than what they are. You guys suck, man. The Cowboys suck. The Giants are not a good team. You had Russ out there putting up, I think he put up more number. Russ is probably a top 2 quarterback in the league right now. And it's because of y'all.
He leads the
that
league
man
in passing.
So he's number 1. He's number 1 right now. Man, hell no.
God damn,
hell no. Made him look like, I bet Russ probably one of Russ's best games of his career.
That was his career passing high.
Man, the Cowboys fucking suck, bro. They suck bad. I love saying it out loud, man. Kudos to them for winning the game. I did pick them to win because, like I said, historically they do beat the Giants, and it is what it is. But damn, the Cowboys might only win 9 games this year, bro. And that's
bad.
Yeah. I'm not trying to be funny. If that's how you look against the Giants, what you gonna do on the road against anybody else? The Giants are probably a bottom 4 or 5 team this year. Yep, I'm saying it. I bet they probably go on a streak losing 4 to 5 games. They definitely losing this week. So they play KC on Sunday night. Yeah, Sunday night. It's in New York. It don't matter. It don't matter. So they got KC, and I'll be damned if you think KC starting off 0-3. I'll be goddamned. So New York about to start off 0-3. cue them up for getting a top 4 pick, bro. I'm not even sure they even got their pick this year, but if they do, they might have a top 4 pick. Dallas, you suck though.
Yeah, the Cowboys had the Giants feeling so good that rookie Cam Scattaboo, Rio Linda's finest, was grabbing Russell Wilson by the jersey and by the neck and like pulling him in and like, yeah, you're killing it. Like rookie Cam Scattaboo was out there doing that to Russell Wilson because the Giants were feeling so good about themselves. So that was it. That was definitely interesting. So now I want to get to this next game, and I'll take this one as the Seahawks beat the Steelers 31-17 in Pittsburgh. And before I give my thoughts on this one, I wanted to highlight a couple of comments from Instagram as Kyle McClanahan, who is in our Stats Over Politics Fantasy Football League, he says Seahawks top 2D this season. I don't know if I go that far, but I respect the bold proclamation there. And then I also wanted to highlight one other comment from our guy, former co-host of this podcast, none other than Mr. Gary Singh, who just says, Steelers! Steelers lost, Gary. They lost by 2 touchdowns to the Seahawks. Come on, Gary. And one other thing from Gary, he also popped on the YouTube comments, and he said regarding Jaden Daniels, says, hope not, I need Jaden in fantasy with a crying emoji. Well, we'll
He's talking about Jaden Reed.
I thought he was talking about Jaden Daniels when it came to the potential sophomore slump. Yeah. Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you for clarifying that, Kevin. But back to Steelers. Come on, Gary. Like they lost 31-17 against the Seahawks. Like the Seahawks may have a top 10 defense in the league this year. I'm not going to go as far as Kyle said to say that they're top 2, but for the Steelers to look pretty good against the Jets. And now I understand it's the Jets. But Aaron Rodgers threw 4 touchdowns in that season opening win. And for him to come back in this game and greatly struggle, I mean, Aaron Rodgers was 18-33 for a touchdown and 2 interceptions. He was looking like 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers rather than MVP Aaron Rodgers. And the last thing I have to say about this game is I'm looking for my friend Keith right now because he's the same guy who came on this podcast and said that the Steelers were going to go 8-9. And then after that week 1 win against the Jets, he said, we're going to the Super Bowl and we're going to win it. We have MVP Rodgers. The Steelers are going to win the Super Bowl. Keith, you're tagging me on Twitter in this Michigan-Ohio State slander, but I haven't heard a peep from you when it comes to the Steelers. Where are you, Keith? We need to put you on a milk carton. You've gone missing. I'm just waiting for you to pop up in my text messages because last week the Steelers were winning the Super Bowl. Now they just lost by 2 touchdowns at home to the Seattle Seahawks. Congratulations to the Pittsburgh Steelers for another great season. Now, keeping things moving here on episode 158 of Stats Over Politics. Kevin, I'm tossing it to you next with an NFC North battle as the Lions beat the Bears 52-21.
Well, Ben Johnson, I'm sorry that you're stuck with Caleb Williams. I came on here last week and said, is it time to have that conversation? How many more weeks are we going to give Caleb? There was a there was a this or that last year where Toddy chose Joe Flacco over Caleb Williams. Toddy, that's your boy. The Michael Jordan theme music. We thought after the week 1 performance against the Packers that the Lions just were cooked. And then they play the Bears, and they do the cooking. Amon-Ra St. Brown dominated this game. And it came down to the very last second of the first half. They get down there. They're able to spike it. They said, fuck a field goal. Fuck you, Ben Johnson. We're going to go for a touchdown. And after that, it was straight belt to ass. Jameson Williams. We finally got to see Jahmyr Gibbs play. David Montgomery got in the end zone. So now it's nice to see the Lions say, we don't need a coordinator. We have the weapons. We're going to figure it out. Chicago, you fucking stink. Kaz said the Cowboys stink. Chicago, you stink. Rumble Dudes, they look good, though. So that's one positive thing to see. But I told you guys, Taylor Bassett, you don't sign a backup for no reason. You give Caleb 2-3 more weeks, and then we saw with Bryce Young. We've seen it before. What a number 1 pick says, come hold this clipboard for a little bit. So we'll see. But the Lions, put belt to ass.
Jaevon, I spared you from that game right there. I was thinking about making you talk about that game, but I spared you, and I left it to Kevin for that one. So if you could, Toddy, the Colts beat the Broncos 29-28 in a bit of a thriller there in Indy.
Hey, this game was probably like a sneaky game of the best game of the week. If you would have watched how this whole entire game played out, let's just say Jonathan Taylor is back. I do think he is contending for the top running back in the league just based on this just 2 games, but he's been out of control. Tyler Warren, drafted him in my fantasy. Ball knowers now about Tyler Warren at Penn State and what he is going to bring to this franchise this year. At least for this year, he's going to be on the fantasy team, starting tight end. Mac Jones. Let's get the elephant out of the room. I think he might be back. Now it is very, very, very small sample size, but the last time the Colts started at 2-0 was like 19. Or was it not 19? I think
Daniel Jones. You mean Daniel Jones, aka Danny Dimes?
Indiana Jones.
Yes.
Let's get it right, Shaun. The Colts might be back. I don't know what it is. Steichen is having these boys. The Colts never had a bad team. They just didn't have a quarterback. Alec Pierce is making plays. You're seeing Tyler Warren get involved. Jonathan Taylor is rejuvenated. They have a guy who I think a lot of people know, Adonai Mitchell, I feel like is a secret weapon, is a dog. Michael Pittman's out there. The defense is good. They have a good defense. The Broncos, a lot of people are picking the Broncos to win that division. The AFC West, they're like, the Broncos are going to do it. Broncos are going to do it. Hey, Bo Nix is looking a little bit shaky, a little bit turnover happy these past couple of weeks. And Sean Payton has to reel those turnovers a little bit in. I get it, second-year plan. So I think the Broncos will be fine. The ending of this game, how it ended, Indiana Jones drives down the field basically to get them within field goal range to kick I don't even think it was like, it was like 50.
It was like I think it was a 60. I think it was a 60-yarder.
It was
you can explain the rest.
They line up to kick it.
Yeah.
He shanks it wide right. Broncos fans are rejoicing, run out on the field. We won. Hold on, guys. Let's come back. We got a flag on the play. Leverage. Somebody is like pushing themselves up against the long snapper. You can't do that. That's a 15-yard penalty. So they have to bring everybody back, and just Bronco fans you see the fans on just how quick the emotions turn, and just you literally go from to right just super quick, and then you got to line back up and kick another field goal. Guy nails a walk-off field goal to win the game. And just it's literally it's that short span of time of being a 1-1 team to a 2-0 team. The Indianapolis Colts are 2-0, and they're leading the division in the AFC South. How many of us picked the Colts to win the division?
Oh man, I think we all had them in last.
I think you all went Texans.
I picked the Jags to win it, but it was either Jags, it was the Texans. I mean, nobody would have thought. I mean, when we heard the news that Anthony Richardson was benched and was not going to be making it, we're like, uh-oh. Daniel Jones is coming in. It might be the best thing for the Colts currently right now. They're 2-0. They're sitting pretty. But last year, I said the Saints were back after 2 games. So they were winning the division. You got Derek Carr. He was doing the Michael Jackson in the end zone. He was moonwalking. Now he's retired, and the Saints won 5 games. And it's just – so, I mean, I don't know if it'll be that crazy of a drop-off, but, I mean, the Colts look legit. They're winning they got the lead on the division now. So, watch out for the Colts.
The Colts do look legit. And, Jaevon, I have to do this just because you highlighted your fantasy team. I don't know how you're doing in your other league, but in the Stats Over Politics Fantasy Football League, in which you said that you were going to go undefeated, I got to turn off the blur on my screen.
Why are we doing this right now?
That's
what are we doing?
0-2. 0-2. 0-2.
What are we doing here?
That's. Hey man, you wanted to hey if you
doing?
want to talk about your fantasy football team on this podcast and they're 0-2, that's the shit that I'm gonna pull. You guys can do the same thing to me, but at least I'm 1-1. Kevin's 2-0. So if Kevin was talking about his fantasy team right now, I'd be like, all right, you're 2-0. Respect. 0-2. 0-2. I gotta start taking the blur off of my screen when I want to.
It's okay, Shaun. Don't worry, I'll pull it up.
Long season.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
I think this man said 0-2 15 times. He said 0-2, 0-2, 0-2.
It's just because it was just because Kaz, right after our draft, like seconds after our draft, Jaevon screenshot his team, put it on his Instagram story, and said, "I'm going undefeated." So this is the treatment he's going to get this season.
I don't want to go too long on this, Kaz, but this is somebody's second time playing fantasy football. I just want to throw that out.
Whoa, ever?
He had 6 one time last year. Now he think he laying pine.
Wait, this your second time ever?
Yes.
Ever.
Oh Lord.
He held out for so long. I've known Jaevon since we were in middle school. I've been trying to get him to play basically since then, and he held out for so long. We finally convinced him last year.
My old ass over here, I got like damn near 15 years in the game, brother. You know
He's
what I'm saying?
He's a vet.
Yeah, I got 12. I got 12. I've been playing since 2013.
I might be seeing ghosts out there, Kev. I don't know.
All right, guys. In all fun, let's start to wrap this segment up. Kaz, I'm throwing it to you next. I don't know what you'll say about this game, but the Cardinals beat the Panthers 27-22.
I was hoping I didn't get this.
Damn. I got make it brief. Panthers stink. They suck really bad. I did notice a lot of sports bettors on this game were like picking the Panthers like to win. Like this was like the upset of the week. And I was like, huh? And when I say a lot of sports bettors, just scrolling through Twitter, I follow so much. I tweet about betting a lot, and I put, I follow, people that bet and stuff like that. So just a part of my algorithm. But I kept seeing that on a few people's like predictions, and you guys know I do my own predictions. I'm like, who on the road against Arizona? Who do they even have right now? I'm like, man, hell no. So I mean, I was just shocked. I was shocked that was even supposed to be a close game. I think they did cover the spread. I think it was 4.5. Did they cover? Yeah, they covered. But either way, I was like, man, ain't no damn way. Now, another thing, too, is the Cardinals do got to find a way to get Marvin Harrison more involved. But that's kind of been the same old story as it was all season last year. It's like he had a handful of games where, like, he balled out. But when he didn't ball out, it was like almost like some A.J. Brown type shit where it's like there's no numbers there. The only difference is that's, like, all they got going for them in Arizona. So you got to get him the ball. Shout out to James Conner, solid back. Trey McBride, he's the top tight end or whatever. But when it comes to playmaking ability, Marvin Harrison has to be your guy. He is, without a doubt, your best offensive weapon, just period. So he's a little frustrated, I think. Kyler kind of sounded a little condescending when he got interviewed, and he was all like, what's the issue with you find a connection with Marvin Harrison? He's like, Marv, some days he's going to get 10 catches, 10 targets, and some days he's going to get 3. I can't really, help whoever's is open. And what else he said? He said, there's only so much ball I can spread around. So he kind of sounded a little pissed off about that. But Kyler, he's a little hoe sometimes, man. So he's always got a little snarkiness to him whenever he gets questioned. Like you deserve to be questioned, bro. Yeah, you deserve to be questioned. You're not some god. This isn't high school anymore. So yeah, but nah, they won the game, and the Panthers stink. So it was another game that was expected.
Yeah, Kyler Murray should have gone and played baseball for my Sacramento Athletics after they wasted the 9th overall pick in the draft on him. What a swing and a miss, pun intended. As now, guys, I'm going to get to this last game. On Sunday Night Football, it was a bit of a stinker. The Falcons beat the Vikings 22-6 in Minnesota. And the biggest storyline coming out of this game is that J.J. McCarthy has a sprained ankle, and he is now going to be out 2 to 4 weeks. Stepping in as the Vikings starting quarterback, Not Sam Darnold, because as we know, he signed with the Seattle Seahawks, and that's a question that we'll pose in the future, whether or not that was a mistake. But now stepping in at quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, none other than Mr. Carson Wentz, someone that my fellow two co-hosts know all too well as Philadelphia Eagles fans. And it'll be interesting. Carson Wentz, as a backup for the Chiefs, he looked okay, small sample size. But my biggest takeaway from this game is that the Falcons, they could win the NFC South. I know we were talking a lot earlier about the Buccaneers and the fact that the Buccaneers could easily run away with the NFC South. I mean, the Falcons' lone loss right now is to the Buccaneers, and they beat a playoff team from 2024 22-6 on their home field, and they basically controlled this entire game. Bijan Robinson, as we already knew, he's that fucking dude. 22 carries, 143 yards. I remember seeing a stat at the end of the game where they put a stat on the screen, and it was like total yards, Bijan Robinson, 168, Minnesota Vikings, like 130. That basically summarizes the game right there. Bijan Robinson beat the Minnesota Vikings. It'll be interesting to see what the Vikings do without J.J. McCarthy over these next 2 to 4 weeks as we start to wrap things up here on episode 158 of Stats Over Politics. Shaun Holko alongside Kevin Dent and Kaz Johnson, the podfather JJ, or excuse me, not JJ. Jaevon Toddy. JJ Toddy had to step away for a moment, but he should be rejoining us if, guys, I want to ask both of you who are on the panel right now, we're 10 minutes away from being 2 hours in. It's almost 9 o'clock here in Pacific Standard Time, Kaz. It's 11 o'clock where you're at. Should we take another 5 to 10 minutes and rank the 10 NFL unbeaten teams right now, or should we just get out of here?
I'm with it. I told you. I got no time.
I'm with it, or we can always just do a graphic. So it's really just up to you, Shaun.
Let's do it right now. Let's do both. We can go over quickly right here, and then we can take this and make a graphic out of it as well. Get everyone's thoughts on it. So I'll start things off.
Let's keep the explanation under 3 minutes so we can post these.
I got you.
So
I'll start
1, however you want to do it, but everyone just goes to their list one time, and then we just won't talk about it as a unit.
I got you. I'll start this off real quickly with mine. So of the 10 NFL undefeated teams through week 2, I'm going to start things off, go from bottom to top. At number 10, I got the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals have beat the Panthers and the Saints. That says enough. At number 9, I got the Cincinnati Bengals. They would be much higher on this list if Joe Burrow wasn't out for 3 months with a turf toe injury. At number 8, I got the Indianapolis Colts. Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones. He's looking like a starting NFL quarterback again, and that's a shocker to everyone. At number 7, I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield, with his legs, led the Buccaneers to a 2-0 start, but they could easily be 1-1 with a loss in Houston. At number 6, I got the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers have looked pretty good to start the season. They win in Brazil against the Kansas City Chiefs, and then they go to Vegas, and they beat the Raiders on Monday night. But I need to see more from the Chargers before I move them higher on this list. At number 5, I got my San Francisco 49ers. They got wins in Seattle, in New Orleans, 2 road wins, but as we've talked about, the Saints are arguably one of the worst teams in the NFL. That's why I had the Cardinals so low on this list. But based on the fact that the 49ers were able to win that game with a backup quarterback, and they won a tough division road game in week 1, I got the Niners at number 5. At number 4, got another NFC West team in the Los Angeles Rams. It pained me to put the Rams ahead of the 49ers on this list, but given what happened last season when these two teams matched up, the Rams have that right to be better than the 49ers until the 49ers prove otherwise this season. At number 3, I got the Green Bay Packers, led by Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is truly a difference maker, and this Packers team was already pretty good. Jordan Love is looking really great right now. And, I got the Packers at number 3 because I think that they are true Super Bowl contenders this year. At number 2, I have the Buffalo Bills. Just like the Buccaneers could easily be 1-1, the Buffalo Bills could also be easily 1-1. But as everyone pointed out in our YouTube comments after last week's episode, The Bills went and won that game. Yeah, the Ravens choked. Yeah, Derrick Henry fumbled. But the Bills went and won that game. They had their first comeback trailing by 15 points since 1967. And then the Bills went out and handled business against the Jets this week. I got the Bills at number 2 because, as Kevin said earlier, arguably, they are the best team in the AFC right now. And finally, by process of elimination, if you could guess, leaving it at number 1 is the reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl champions as Kevin flaps his wings below me. I got the Philadelphia Eagles at number 1. I mean, the Eagles start the season. They get a close one against the Cowboys, but division games are always tough. And then they go to Kansas City. They beat the Chiefs, and they give the Chiefs their first 3-game losing streak in a long time. They haven't started 0-2 since 2013. And so until someone knocks them off, the Eagles have to remain at the top of the list. So that is my list of the top 10 NFL teams that are still undefeated. Kevin, I will now pass the mic off to you.
Perfect. So at 10, I do have the Cincinnati Bengals. I get it. They usually do start off slow, but they are a couple plays against the Browns. If the Browns make that field goal, they're 0-1. And if Brian Thomas Jr. catches that 4th and 3, they're 0-2. So they're a couple plays from being 0-2. So I'm going to have them at 10 at the top of this, the bottom of this list. And number 9, Shaun, I'm sorry. I'm the San Francisco 49ers. They beat the Saints and the Seahawks, 2 non-playoff teams, scraping by. Shaun was saying after the Seahawks game, he was relieved. Thank you, Jesus. We beat the Seahawks. And then we came McCorkle Jones pick away from losing to the Saints. So you guys have the easiest schedule in the world. And you guys are scraping by. So I would have you guys 9 on this list. Above you guys, I have the Arizona Cardinals. I get it. They also beat 2 non-playoff teams. But this is a big year for Kyler Murray. And for them to come out week 1 and get Marvin Harrison involved. And then, but on the other side of the coin, they didn't get him involved week 2. They're just being able to win in different ways. So I have the Arizona Cardinals at 9. At 8, I have Indiana Jones and the Colts. Beating 2 playoff teams. And the Broncos and the Dolphins. The Dolphins are what everyone says. Tua's an injury, a snap away from being hurt. So yeah, you got to take that with a grain of salt. But for them to be able to beat the Dolphins or the Broncos, in a game like that, goes a long way to show that maybe the Colts are legit. At 7, I now have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I said it earlier that I believe they can be a contender in the NFC. Baker Mayfield always finds a way to get it done. Todd Boyles, they have a winning culture over there. Beating the Falcons and the Bucs. The Falcons game came down to the last minute, and so did the Bucs. So like I said, the Buccaneers always find a way to win games. At 6, I believe, I have the Chargers. Beating the Chiefs and the Raiders. Going in week 1 in Brazil and being able to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. A game where probably no one thought they could win it. Justin Herbert has his problems. We finally got to see a Quentin Johnson resurgence. He was this big downfield threat coming out of TCU, so to see him coming in his own, Ladd McConkey bringing Keenan Allen back. Maybe Keenan Allen isn't washed. Maybe he was just being in Chicago. Now getting into the top 4 teams. We have the Rams at 4, beating the Texans and the Titans. Like we said, the Titans game was a close game for a while, but Matthew Stafford, having Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, really bringing this team together. We even saw Corum get into the end zone. So the Rams are healthy, and they're looking really good. At 3, I have the Green Bay Packers, beating the Commanders and the Lions, 2 teams that were in the NFC divisional game last year, and beating them convincingly. Like, these games aren't close. Micah Parsons coming onto this team, and he's only playing minimal reps. Can we imagine what this defense is going to look like when he's playing all the defensive reps? So the Green Bay Packers offensively are finding ways to get it done. Jaden Reed goes down. We talked about that earlier in the episode. And then Tucker Kraft is able to do his thing. Josh Jacobs, Jordan Love, Romeo Dobbs is even making appearances here and there. So I have them at 3. At 2, the best team in the AFC, the Buffalo Bills, beating the Ravens, coming back down. Josh Allen throwing for 250 yards in the first quarter, and then basically just putting belt to ass against the Jets. This team is finally looking like the Bills team that we always talk about every preseason. We always talk about how good the Bills are going to be. Number 1, you guys know it. You see it in the background. Shaun mentioned it, the Philadelphia Eagles. Being able to beat 2 playoff teams in the Cowboys and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl rematch, being able to beat them in different ways. We were able to beat the Cowboys after having an hour-and-a-half layoff, and then we were able to go into Kansas City and get a W. So those are my top 10 teams, the top 10 NFL unbeaten teams.
All right, Kaz, close it out for us with your list of the top 10 teams in the NFL that are still undefeated.
All right, starting at the top, number 10, I have the Indianapolis Colts. I just simply don't believe in them the way that you guys do. It's going to be one of those situations where I will believe it when I see it. Starting off 2-0, that's cool and all, but I've seen a lot of teams in previous years that have come off of terrible seasons start off the same way, and usually it ends up the same when it's all said and done. So they're going to stay at number 10. Moving on to number 9, I had the Cincinnati Bengals. They are there because of Joe Burrow not being there. But even if he was there, they might still remain. I don't really know. But if anything, I might have moved them up maybe one or two teams. But for the most part, the Bengals are kind of the same way. It's like I mentioned earlier, they're a polished turd. Shout out to their superstars, but they're not a team that is just going to go out here and steamroll teams and just walk their way into the playoffs. They never have. They never will. They did it one time only. And outside of that, the next time that they've been around, that they've been relevant, they weren't even close to being the best team in not only their division, but also in the AFC. Moving on, we have number 8, the Arizona Cardinals. Like I said, I think that as long as they get Marvin Harrison Jr. more involved, that might be a team that, in their division, which I think that the AFC or NFC West right now it's competitive, but there's just harder divisions out there, honestly, right now. I think the Cardinals, they get a win or two in that division against the San Francisco 49ers and the LA Rams. They have potential to win that division possibly. So I'm going to stick with the Cardinals at number 8 for right now. Moving on to number 7, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is where it gets kind of hard between 7 and 5 because I think you can move these guys any which way. But the Bucs are a team that, I said it earlier, they are a formidable opponent. If you take them lightly, they're going to punch you in the mouth. And I do like the Buccaneers, even though they do beat my Eagles time and time again. But, no hater shit. I think the Bucs are a fun team to watch. They're a nice team to watch. But these next 6 through 1, I just think are a little bit better. So moving on to number 6, slightly better than the Buccaneers, I got the LA Rams. They got a quarterback who has a Super Bowl under his belt in recent years. And on top of that, they just added Devontae Adams. Puka Nacua was a guy. So they got rid of Cooper Kupp. They no longer have Jalen Ramsey, but they've completely revamped that offense. They are now coming off of, sitting the house for Matthew Stafford, losing all them first round picks. And now they've rebuilt everything. So they have young guys. They have the veteran quarterback. They're very well coached, and they're a team that's probably going to end up winning that division. If not, probably second place, but we'll see when we get there. Then after that, we got the number 5 San Francisco 49ers. I think you get Brock Purdy back. That's probably a team that will end up winning the divisions. Like I said, the Rams definitely could win the division, but the Niners have done it time and time again. They are the powerhouse of the NFC West. They still have Christian McCaffrey, who right now, everybody was talking about how injury prone he is. He had the calf sprain or whatever it was in week 1, and he still has not taken a step back. So until he is hurt, I'm not counting him out. We got to account for Brandon Ayuk come back in a handful of weeks here. You got Jawan Jennings, who I think he had a pretty solid game, if I'm not mistaken, a little banged up, but he had a pretty solid game. George Kittle will come back in a few weeks. They're a solid team when they're all healthy. So I'm gonna give the Niners number 5 and have them leading the NFC West because they time and time again have been the team to beat. Moving on to number 4, which is going to be a hot take, I have the Los Angeles Chargers. I believe in the Chargers for multiple years. I have not forgotten who Justin Herbert was since his second year in the league. I've seen enough. And now they got Keenan Allen back, who I think is a guy that is very important to that organization because it's not all about guys being flashy. It's not all about guys, having these tremendous stats. Keenan Allen, I want to say he has 2 touchdowns this season, if I'm not mistaken. I know he had one for sure in week 1. I think he also got one this previous week in week 2. So either way, him and Justin Herbert before he left have always had a connection. And now they're back. Just because Keenan Allen's a few years older, if he's healthy, he's healthy. You don't need to do anything tremendous to have a connection with your quarterback. And I think that just opened up a lot for the LA Chargers. On top of that, I think they're very well coached. I do like Harbaugh there. And Justin Herbert, I'm not sure what you guys have been seeing, but the way he's been playing, be on the lookout for him to be probably top 3 in the MVP race, as long as he stays healthy. Lab McConkey, he's going to do work. QJ, Quentin Johnston. We all shit on him last 2 years. He's terrible draft pick. And he's like, nope, let me just show you guys what I was drafted for and who I am. And he's been a huge asset to this offense this season. So I think the Chargers, especially beating the Chiefs, coming back and, winning against the Raiders, which is 2 division games, and both of them technically are road games because they have not played at SoFi yet. That's massive. So they are 2-0 in the division. and they beat the team that was just in the Super Bowl. Not only maybe 7 months ago, give or take. So yeah, shout out to the Chargers. Number 3, we got the Green Bay Packers. Self-explanatory. They are going to be probably a team that makes it to the NFC Championship game if they continue to do what they look like they're able to do. I'll just keep it at that. The addition of Parsons, like we mentioned in our week 1 segment, is massive. Like I think Shaun said, he's not even playing. Shaun or Kevin said he's not even playing full snaps yet. So they're just kind of coasting. I think they have a winning culture there. I think they're I don't think they are very confident. They are a very confident team. And I think that they're going to try to take the league by storm. So be on the lookout for the Packers they might end up starting off like 6-0, 7-0 when it's all said and done. I would not be surprised. Number 2, I actually went back and forth between the Buffalo Bills and the Eagles, and I'll tell you why. I did give it number 2 to the Bills and number 1 to the Eagles. But the reason why I went back and forth is because I can't deny the fact that we have not seen enough from the Philadelphia Eagles offense to tell myself that, oh yeah, if we play Buffalo Bills, we're going to beat them. I haven't yet. Now, did we beat the Chiefs on the road? Absolutely. The Chiefs, unfortunately, are not good right now. They are dealing with significant injuries. We do have a great defense, but I'm not sure if we're going to be able to put up 30 points, to beat a team like the Buffalo Bills and, solidify us as the number 1 team that's undefeated right now. But then I went back on it. I said, you know what? You got to beat the champs to be the champs. We are the champs, and we still have won very, very, one against 2 very, very good teams. And when I say good, I'm not meaning the Dallas Cowboys are a great team. No, I just said they suck, but we time and time again go back and forth with Dallas. We always split with Dallas. So the fact that we did get one early win against Dallas in week 1, it was a close game. It was a close game, so I'm going to call it what it is. I think it was more so of us underperforming and just having, somewhat of cold feet going against Dallas versus them, playing well. They took advantage of our weak points. That is our secondary, just completely torching. CeeDee Lamb was torching Adoree Jackson, which is exactly what you're supposed to do. They did almost win that game. But for right now, like I said, I was going back and forth between the 2, and I just think that if it was a game that went over 30 points, we'd have a very hard time beating a team like the Buffalo Bills. But in the end, I still think we do have the slight edge. So Bills at number 2, Philadelphia Eagles at number 1, respectfully.
A lot of similar.
Yeah, I mean,
besides Shaun,
I think we all
the Niners up there, but
hey, Kaz had the Niners at 5 too. Kaz had the Niners.
I had them at 6. Okay,
barely. I mean, it was like between like 7 to 5. I'm like, I don't really know. I was like, nah. I was like, fuck. I was like, you know what? I fuck with CMC heavy. George Kittle is obviously a dog. When they get Ayuk back and Juwan Jennings going and Ricky Pierce, they have a squad. And Brock Purdy is a very consistent, poised quarterback. He's not the most flashiest, but the guy, we saw what he did in like one of the last weeks of the season where he put up 1 million points and won me my fantasy league last year, going off for like 35, 30. So it was something crazy. I was down big and Brock Purdy came through for your boy. So for right now, I got a little bit of a soft spot for my boy Brock Purdy. You know what I'm saying? Just a little one. You know what I'm saying? If I made a lot of money, that won me my league. That was my championship game. It won me my league. So,
if I recall correctly, that was week 17 when the Niners played at home against the Lions on Monday Night Football, and the Lions beat the brakes off of us. But we put up a lot of points. And so shout out to Brock Purdy. And shout out to him again because he won that Seattle Seahawks game, drove down the field with 6 of 6 on that final drive while injured with not only a bad shoulder, but also with a messed up toe too. And so shout out to Big Cock Brock for everything. I had to. And that's that. You guys got any closing thoughts or should we end on that?
We got to end on Big Cock Brock.
Sure. All right.
I ain't gonna hold you, man. That one did it for me.
Well, make sure to give us a like on YouTube. It helps us a lot. If you enjoy the podcast, hit subscribe to get notifications when we go live. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Stats Over Politics and on X at Stats or Politics. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on all podcast platforms. And if you're enjoying the show, give us those 5 stars. We'd really appreciate it. As you guys have been tuned into episode number 158 of Stats Over Politics. For my guys, Jaevon, Sadi, Kaz Johnson, Kevin Dent, and Gary Singh, I'm your host, Shaun Holko. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week on another episode of Stats Over Politics. Peace.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.